No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken episode number 301. And breaking right now, I need to bring you these shocking details from Minneapolis, where there has been a shooting at a Catholic school, Annunciation Catholic Church. In the past few minutes, the police chief has confirmed that an 8 and a 10-year-old were shot dead through the window of this church. 14 others were seriously injured, with 2 in critical condition. The coward gunman took his own life after literally turning up, shooting through the window as these children started their first week at school. A truly horrendous story, and all my love goes to the people of Minneapolis who are going to be grappling with what is, unfortunately, another massacre. Back here in the UK, a desperate video of a Scottish girl fighting on the streets of Dundee has become a signal to the world of a disunited kingdom in deep trouble.
Away from her! Throw the knife, throw the knife. Don't touch her! That's it, throw the knife.
This image has gone viral across the US, with Majorie Taylor Greene offering the troubled teen sanctuary as the UK MSM ignores the story, as it's the girl who is punished. Meanwhile, as there are growing fears for Britain, Elon Musk has thrown a grenade into the battle for the UK, launching a stinging attack on Nigel Farage and making a shock endorsement of Ben Habib's Advance UK.
Yeah, well, actually, Elon Musk took to social media to praise my speech, to say, go, Nigel, go. And within a few hours, he changed his mind.
The astonishing story in my digest next, and the pushback from reform figures like Matt Goodwin. Then Advance UK leader Ben Habib joins me to react to the first time to that Elon Musk endorsement. He'll be making some news before the superstar panel weighs in. Today, Father Calvin Robinson and campaigner Donna Rachel Edmunds. Also coming up on the show today, horror details revealed in court about the alleged illegal migrant from the Bell Hotel in Epping, Essex, whose case sparked the nationwide migrant hotel uprising. And Meghan Markle chickens out on criticising Donald Trump when given the first direct opportunity to do so in a decade. Is she terrified about him deporting Prince Harry? Then in the uncancelled after show on Substack, inside Prince William's horror as his brother plots a tell-all Netflix series about Princess Diana. We're going to have all the royal news, actually, as we team up with the YouTube sensation P. Diner. We're also going to reveal a brand new Greatest Britain and Union Jackass before the end of the show. You can vote for the worst Britain in the world today, right now in the YouTube live chat. Here are your 3 nominees. Meghan Markle, nominated by Sarah Booth for her second series of With Love, Meghan being mauled by the critics as narcissistic, needy, staged, fake, dull, a gormless lifestyle filler, the Montecito Marie Antoinette, and a series in search of meaning fronted by a woman in need of some cash. Whoops. Jess Phillips, nominated by Ginzi Duda for the ongoing lack of action on an official rape gang inquiry. And Saeed Avazi, nominated by exiled Paddy62, who declared on LBC this week when talking to another Asian presenter that placing England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland flags made you a far-right knuckle dragger. So 3 interesting choices there. Get voting. Let me know your comments during the show. I'll read out the best at the end before we go today. So please do stick with us. But now, let's go. Never has it been more apparent to me than how out of touch the UK's regime media is with the real concerns of the country by their decision to completely ignore a shocking viral video from Dundee, Scotland, that is waking up some of the biggest names in American politics to the real hell facing the young women of Britain.
Yeah, she have a knife.
You don't. Hey, I'm fucking 12 feet. You're fucking bad and
Why are you fucking with us?
These are fucking kid bashers.
Show the knife. Show the knife.
Get
Show
the
the knife.
fuck away from her.
Show the knife, show the knife.
Don't touch her.
That's it, that's it. Show the knife. Show the knife, that's it.
Don't fucking touch my little sister. She ain't fucking 12. Where's her fucking touching me? She is fucking 12 and you just battered me, mate. Where's my fucking touching me?
Yeah, show the knife. Maracha, Maracha.
Don't touch her, you're to me. Don't touch her.
The desperation of those two teenagers on the mean streets has become a symbol of how the UK is failing our girls. But indeed, over in the mainstream media, the only coverage you'll see is articles seemingly supporting the decision by the authorities to charge the young girl. It was Tommy Robinson who, as is so often the case, brought the incident to wider attention, writing very concerning video out of Dundee, Scotland. Very distressed young girls being filmed by a migrant. The children can be heard saying they're only 12 and to leave them alone. Before one child brings out weapons. What's happening here? Now, that caught the attention of MAGA star Majorie Taylor Greene, who pledged, "This brave little girl is the type of refugee I want coming to America. I can't comprehend what type of government won't protect her and refuses to stamp out the mass rapings." The Massive X account, Cat Turd, wrote, "This symbol is spreading around the world in just 24 hours. And patriotic English legal expert Stephen Barrett even weighed in, writing, "For maximum good, in the shortest amount of time, Elon Musk could defend this girl. All she wanted was for her and her friend to be safe. It will require Scottish lawyers, and I am no use. I trust J.K. Rowling, Joanna Cherry, and even the often wrong Roddy QC can help." Without a word being mentioned in the MSM, Scottish men have now promised to launch a male citizen patrol in the area, prompting Tommy to add, "The men of Scotland are stepping in to patrol Dundee, where the young girls were left to defend themselves from migrant men, and the girls were arrested. Go on, lads." And Bo Dade of the Lotus Eaters responded to a post on X from Patrick Reed, which said a 14-year-old girl in Scotland has done more than any ruling party in the UK to prevent British girls from being raped by migrants. To that, Mo added, "Mad, huh? She's got more balls than me, got more balls than Constantine Kisson, got more balls than Lawrence Fox, got more balls than Paul Joseph Watson, got more balls than Nick Tenconi, got more balls than Ant Middleton, got more balls than Eddie Hall. She's a goddamn inspiration." And I think it is fair to say the international online right is now waking up to the massive threat posed to the United Kingdom, thanks to citizen journalists and the independent media. Because after staying out of British politics for 8 months, the world's richest and arguably most powerful man, Elon Musk, no longer encumbered by his former Doge role in the Trump administration, re-entered the fray in the most dramatic of terms overnight. So you'll remember he first posted the St. George's flag, then he roasted Nigel Farage for not doing so himself. Then, after a few hours' sleep, he made his position abundantly clear. Advance UK, he wrote, will actually drive change. Farage is weak sauce who will do nothing. Then, responding to Rupert Lowe, he added, "Unfortunately, the reality is that Farage will do almost nothing to protect Britain. That is obvious. Existing law is clear that anyone who was an accessory to aggravated rape or murder, especially of children, is guilty of serious crime and must either serve time in prison if a citizen or be deported if not. The government simply needs to enforce the law." Now, these developments have piled the pressure on Rupert Lowe to reunite with Habib, turning them into one force. Tommy Robinson directly pleaded with Rupert this way, writing, "Join Advance UK, please." And I'm pretty sure, actually, and he said, "We'll make Advance UK a household name in the next 12 months. We want a political home." And I'm pretty sure that Elon Musk also reposted that, as he did a post today from Ant Middleton declaring his ambition to run for the Mayor of London. Now, all of this news was a hammer blow for Reform UK, with Farage and Richard Tice, the deputy leader, continuing their careful strategy to get the billionaire, who, remember, backed the party at that Mar-a-Lago meeting in January, back on board. Watch.
Finally, Elon Musk said today, after your press conference, unfortunately, the reality is that Farage will do almost nothing to protect Britain. That is obvious. How do you respond to that?
We're leading in all the national polls. You can be friendly with someone but not agree with them on everything. And we've had our agreements with Elon Musk, who's a brilliant entrepreneur. I enjoy many of his fine products. But sometimes you can disagree with friends.
Richard Tice, thank you very much for talking to us this evening.
Thank you.
After your event yesterday, Elon Musk took to social media to criticise you. He said, Farage is weak sauce who will do nothing. What's your response?
Yeah, well, actually, Elon Musk took to social media to praise my speech, to say, go, Nigel, go. And within a few hours, he changed his mind. He was busy launching a rocket yesterday, which I'm pleased to say was a great success. And I do admire him in many ways, but his inconsistency is quite astonishing.
But Musk is on a one-man mission to expose the cover-up of the Pakistani Muslim rape gangs, and it's clear he has been put off by Farage's rejection of Tommy Robinson and degradation of those of us on the so-called online right. He also posted, I would like to help fund legal actions against corrupt officials who aided and abetted the rape gang of Britain, per the official government inquiry. Who will protect the children if not the strong? Frankly, I understand why some people hate billionaires if they throw parties on yachts, make useless virtue signalling donations, but do nothing real to protect those in need. And what was actually most insane to me today is that Farage attended a lengthy press conference in Scotland where he announced Reform's first MSP has defected from the Tories and was not asked by all of the Scottish media in attendance one question about what on earth was going on with that 14-year-old girl who was going viral all across America. Instead, and you probably will believe this, but it's still extraordinary, the BBC, the national broadcaster, the British bashing corporation, actually put forward the argument that we need more migration. Listen.
Yeah, but he might be surprised how many SNP voters might actually vote for you and vote for our party next year, so I'm sure he will have a go. Yes. Right, let's move on. James Cook, BBC National.
Thank you very much, Mr Farage. Scotland faces, in common with other parts of the UK, a demographic issue in terms of a shrinking share of the working age population and a falling birth rate. Given that, in a flatlining economy over many years now, doesn't the Scottish economy really need more migration, whether that might be legal migration, but doesn't it need more migrants rather than fewer? And
no, absolutely bloody not, BBC. And then just to show you how out of touch the media are with where the public is going, it was the Daily Mail that actually launched this astonishing personal attack on Nigel Farage.
You denied you had a women problem, but when you were introducing Graham, you said he matters to us because he's our first MSP.
Yeah.
He's not your first MSP. Michelle Ballantyne was the Scottish leader of Reform for a year in the previous Parliament, but you seem to have forgotten all about it.
Well, I wasn't involved with Reform at the time. You're right, but I wasn't involved with Reform at the time.
Well, that doesn't say much for your respect for women that you've just forgotten about.
Oh, don't talk nonsense. I was actually busy doing other things. I wasn't in politics at the time. The party was run by someone else. I can give you chapter and verse on what's happened since the 3rd of June last year.
And we came onto this issue via Nicola Sturgeon.
Yeah.
In her book, she also says you are odious, have a brittle, fragile ego, and are bombastic. Just for the record, to clarify, how odious, egotistical and bombastic do you think you are?
You make your own mind up. You can say whatever you like. And do you know what? I couldn't care less. Couldn't care less what she says or any of you say. I'm not interested. I'm far from brittle. I don't worry about any of it. I just do what I think's right. I came out of retirement this time last year to get back into politics because I thought I could make a positive difference. And there are a growing number of people who actually agree with that.
You do sound a bit touchy.
You can try as hard as you like, mate. Sorry. Okay, moving on to...
Well, I mean, is it a surprise? Is it a surprise that people are touchy with this mainstream media bullshit anymore? Because breaking right now, Tommy Robinson, it has just been announced, will not be charged over that incident on the London Tube a few weeks ago. But you'll remember the mainstream media were absolutely gunning for him. And I was the one telling you day after day that the video evidence would prove that this was not a chargeable offence and that Tommy Robinson was simply defending himself. So we now have a statement which has been released by the British Transport Police revealing that the alleged victim didn't want to provide a statement themselves at all, and that despite this arrest of Tommy Robinson, the prosecution file was presented to the Crown Prosecution Service, who reviewed the evidence available and concluded that there was not a realistic prospect of conviction and therefore there would be no criminal charges in the case. Now, this really matters, and it doesn't just matter, by the way, because Tommy Robinson has been proven to be telling the truth. This was a case of self-defense. The so-called victim knows that he isn't a victim. But can we just think back to the way that this whole thing was orchestrated? There was a massive manhunt put out by the British Transport Police to get Tommy Robinson. Then the Sun newspaper was tipped off as 8 police vehicles arrived to get him off his plane at Luton. It was performative. And I repeat, even though it is very good news that Tommy Robinson will not be charged, so much of what we see is not the justice system playing out anymore, because I don't believe that we have a justice system. It is the deep state working with the mainstream media, working with the establishment to try and put false narratives out there to the world. But good news that Tommy Robinson has been proven right on this one. Everything he said was true, and there will be no charge, meaning that the Uniting the Kingdom rally can go ahead next month. And I will also tell you, by the way, Tommy has promised me personally that he will no longer be out in London without security. When I saw him the other day, his security guy actually said to me the whole thing was a disaster because the car was being serviced, and that was the reason that Tommy had to take the tube. But in this day and age, it's just not realistic for him to do that. Now, of course, after the criticism from Elon Musk, as you can imagine, the Faragists, as I call them, soon out in force. And after briefly flirting with saying what he really thinks a few weeks back, Matt Goodwin was back in defend reform at any cost mode, no doubt because I'm told he has been pushed out of the party's inner circle in recent weeks and he wants back in. He posted on X, "No disrespect to the people involved, but if you think Ben Habib, a person 99% of Britain have never heard of, and his party, which 99% of the country have never heard of, is the way forward, then you really don't know all that much about British politics. Britain needs urgent and radical reform." That prompted this challenge from a member of the public who wrote, "Matt, I really admire and respect you, but I think if you were being honest with yourself and not playing the political game, you know in your heart of hearts that Farage does not have the mettle to make the change required. Elon saw this, I agree." But he responded, "I have known Nigel Farage for 15 years. I 100% believe he will push through political change people currently think is impossible, like he did with leaving the EU. But when the National Housing Party pointed out if Farage wasn't so woke, there wouldn't be the advanced threat of reform, Goodwin responded, "What are you talking about? Reform is on 33%. It is number 1 in the national polls. Nobody has ever done this before. If you were idiotic enough to think not good enough for me then, with all due respect, good luck in the wilderness. Now is your one chance. Now." Reform comedian Lee Hurst added, "I see the low Habib fanboys are out in force as they see their circle diminishing. They won't even work together because they are splitters. Each one's group will split again in turn. That's what they are. Big fish, small pond, and the pond is shrinking daily. My prediction is Lowe will eventually defect to the Tories and still lose his seat, and Habib will simply fade away." But Ben Habib wasn't having any of that. He criticised the Reform UK mass deportation plan, writing, Successive governments have for decades practiced a policy of mass legal and illegal migration with all its attendant damage. It should be self-evident that this damage can only be reversed by a reversal of that policy. In other words, the solution lies in mass repatriations and the deportation of legal migrants. This would not be an extreme policy, it would be nothing more than what has already been taking place, but in reverse. It can be done peacefully and legally, but it must be done if we wish to reverse the damage to the country. Politicians seeking to appear moderate and shying away from the challenge are embedding the damage. The truly moderate approach is to adopt policies which reverse the damage done by 30 years of open borders, and of course, once again, enforcing our borders. And Advance UK leader Ben Habib is here now, fresh off that endorsement from Elon Musk. Ben Habib, great to have you here. Much to discuss, as I just outlined in my digest. But let's kick off with what is, for you, obviously the biggest news. Elon Musk, the world's richest man, arguably the world's most powerful man, diving headfirst back into British politics after being silent really for the past 8 months, and not just attacking your arch rival Nigel Farage and saying that he'll do no good for the country, but coming out and giving a full-throttled endorsement to your new political party, Advance UK. Did you know that this was going to happen? Because I remember last time you told me you were having some back-channel discussions with Elon Musk, but this is really ratcheted up a notch now. What's been going on?
It's great to be back on, Dan, and great to be back on in optimistic circumstances. And I think it was on your show for the first time that I mentioned publicly that I'd had a conversation with Elon Musk back in January. And it was Elon Musk's idea, actually, back in January, that a new party was needed in the United Kingdom. And I think I might have mentioned when I was on with you previously that I had said to him, I had responded saying that actually that's a huge challenge in the UK. And I had kind of, shied away from it. But then all the things happened with Rupert Lowe and so on. And I went back to Elon Musk in March at the same time as Rupert was experiencing the difficulties he had with reform. And so, well, actually, I've changed my mind. I think no matter how difficult it is, we must do this. And actually, I think there's a sporting chance that this may work. And Advance UK was born out of that discussion. The discussion I had with Rupert Lowe and the discussion I had had with Elon Musk. And for the last few months, as you know, I've been putting the party together. We then launched on the 30th of June. We've had a spectacular increase in the number of members. And I think Elon, who has been doing his own US-orientated stuff, has nevertheless been keeping an eye on what we've been up to. And he's come on board full throttle, as you say, and which is terrific. I'm absolutely delighted that he's endorsed us. Why wouldn't I be? It's a terrific endorsement to have, and I think it's a validation of our decision to go for a political party, even though I was first reluctant to do it.
And he also clearly doesn't believe that Nigel Farage is really prepared to do what is required on the issue of mass deportations. Now, I want to show you this headline today. I mean, Tommy Robinson posted this just with 4 words, flip, flop, flip, flop. And it's from The Guardian after this press conference in Scotland. Nigel Farage rolls back on vow to deport all small boat arrivals to the UK, telling this event in Scotland that deporting women and children is not part of his party's plan for the next 5 years. So do you believe that this was a real mass deportations plan, or was this something that Nigel had been forced into by folk like you, folk like Tommy Robinson, folk like Rupert Lowe?
He's absolutely been dragged kicking and screaming to use the word mass. He's got some aversion to using the word mass deportation, the words mass deportation. He seems to be content with the concept of mass migration into the country, but doesn't seem to recognize that if he wishes to reverse the damage created by mass migration into the country, the only solution can be mass repatriation and mass deportation of those who are illegally here. the offensive term, I don't know what it is he finds offensive about the term mass deportation. I know Farage is extremely concerned about being cancelled, but mass deportations or the mass repatriation of people who've come to this country in the last few years, that's not the extreme policy, is it, Dan? The extreme policy that's been perpetrated against the United Kingdom is the mass migration into the country in the first place. That's been done by our political overlords against every wish expressed by the British people. Every election, just about, by any main party, Labour or Conservative, they promised to cut back on migration. And yet we've had mass migration, both legal and illegal, again and again and again, to the point now where actually mass deportations and the mass consensual repatriation of people who are here legally has to now form part of our political landscape. It's the only mechanism by which we can reverse what has happened before. But Farage is extremely nervous of it. As you know, on Steve Edgington's show last, I think, November,
yes,
he said that he thought it was a political impossibility, wouldn't go near it. And then yesterday at the press conference, even then it was performative, because he wasn't saying every illegal migrant will go back to where they came from. He said 600, they came up with a figure of 600,000. I'm not sure where they got that figure from. But what we need is the principle of an incoming pro-British government committing themselves to the deportation of everyone who is here illegally, no matter how long it takes to identify, and no matter how long it takes to then deport them. So even in the construction of the policy to which he was taken, as I say, kicking and screaming, he hasn't been able to be true. And then coming out this morning and saying he didn't mean women and children is really very daft, if you don't mind me saying so, because the minute you cut out a category of individual from all the illegal migrants, you say this lot are protected within that grouping, he's doing two things. The first is he's sending a signal to all women and children who wish to come across the channel, come in numbers, a reform government's not going to deport you. So in other words, effectively, he's through the back door legalized the illegal movement of women and children across that dangerous channel journey. Not a very good move, in my view. And of course, then the other thing he's done is encourage all those women and children who are not going to be deported to argue that their husbands should stay. And I can't imagine a British court saying, well, we're going to break families up. So he's given a back route door, actually, for men also to stay. And what better way then for a man to assure that he won't be deported than to marry and have children in the United Kingdom? He's basically giving all the men that he says he would wish to deport a 4-year window in which to get married, start a family, and therefore avoid being deported. And he's undermined his own policy at day one.
Well, and what's interesting too, Ben, although maybe not surprising, he also undermined his own deputy leader, Rupert Lowe, Richard Tice, who had been saying the opposite earlier in the day. Two other things that I want to ask you about the raw politics of this. So on Rupert Lowe, Tommy Robinson is now publicly urging, and Elon Musk has retweeted these posts, so seemingly endorsing the idea of Rupert joining Advance UK. Now, of course, the last time you were here, Ben, you were very honest. You had asked Rupert Lowe to join. You had offered him the leadership. Do you think this full throttle backing from Elon Musk will make it any more likely that Rupert might change his mind and that you might unite?
I haven't had a chance to speak to Rupert this morning. Rupert was firmly of the mind that a cross-party movement is what the country needs at the moment. And I mean, I thought he was wrong then. I hope Rupert will forgive me for saying this, but I thought he was wrong then, which is why I set up the party. And I think he's self-evidently wrong now, because Advance is growing at a rate of knots. We're getting great people joining, by the way, great people joining our college, large numbers joining our membership. Are you close
to the 30,000 now? You must be.
We're close. We'll be there in the next couple of weeks. Next 2 or 3 weeks,
You'll have to come back when you get there. Then the other thing that people are saying, and look, I know this is coming from a Faragist, and I read it in my digest, but let me just read it to you again. But this is sort of the line that's being used, so I want to give you the opportunity to respond.
Sure.
So this is from Matt Goodwin. in response to the Elon Musk post. No disrespect to the people involved, but if you think Ben Habib, a person 99% of Britain have never heard of, and his party, which 99% of the country have never heard of, is the way forward, then you really don't know all that much about British politics. British needs urgent and radical reform. Now, he said many similar things, but you get that that's the vibe where these people are coming from, Ben. How do you respond to that?
Well, I agree that Britain needs urgent, radical change, not necessarily reform. Perhaps I would say restoration is a more accurate word. I agree with the principle that we need dramatic change. But Farage ain't going to do it for all the reasons we've just discussed. He won't deport all the illegal migrants here. He won't even have a tilt at reducing the numbers of migrants who've come here legally. They've got a net zero migration policy. They say they wish to ditch DEI, but in the same breath, they acknowledge that men who've had their tackle chopped off can go into women's prisons. Well, that's taking the knee to DEI, which is the progressive discrimination that creates the requirement that we recognize men who wish to be women can be women. They're at odds with themselves. And it comes back to this fundamental point, which Matt can't seem to get his head round. And it's this, that reform doesn't have a political philosophy that's coherent. It pivots this way and that way. It doesn't represent the change the country needs. Yes, the persona of Nigel Farage is pro-British, but the reality of Nigel Farage is a cunning fox who's politically expedient and will say and do anything that curries favour with the electorate. Now, if you want another Boris Johnson kind of figure in power, who's very popular but unable to do what's needed to be done in order to save the United Kingdom, by all means, back Nigel Farage. You know, if that's what suits you, Matt, go for it. But you're not going to save the country.
There is a choice. Ben, just finally, I need to talk to you about this video from Scotland. So I'll play it for you again, but this is apparently a 14-year-old in Dundee. And this video has gone viral because lots of big American commentators like Majorie Taylor Greene, Cat Turd are sort of saying this is emblematic of what's going on at the moment in our United Kingdom. Watch this.
Yes, you have a knife.
You don't. Hey, I'm fucking 12 me. You're fucking bad and
Why are you fucking with us?
You're fucking kid bashers.
Show the knife. Show the knife. Show the knife.
Away from us.
Show the knife. Show the knife.
Don't touch it.
That's it. That's it. Show the knife.
Don't touch my life.
Show the knife. That's it.
Don't fucking touch my little sister. She ain't fucking 12. Wait until I fucking catch you. She's fucking 12 and you just battered me, mate. Wait until I fucking catch you.
Yeah, show the knife. Maracha.
Don't touch her. Don't to me. Don't touch her.
Now, Ben, Nigel Farage was in Scotland today. You know, there was an hour-long press conference, not one question about these teenage girls who are going viral all across America. Majorie Taylor Greene saying, this brave little girl is the type of refugee I want coming to America. Indeed, it's only been reported here in the mainstream media in that she was charged for possessing those weapons. And I do appreciate there are legal constraints in terms of what can be said. But speaking generally about these scenes on our streets, Ben Habib, we've got a real issue, right?
This is the dystopic United Kingdom that is being created through 30 years of misgovernance and a failure to protect civil society in the United Kingdom. This 14-year-old, I'm sure, wouldn't otherwise have habitually carried a knife or axe, but for the fact that she feels threatened on her own streets. And clearly the man filming it wanted to entrap her. He kept saying, show me the knife, show me the knife. The girls are distressed. She's underage, she's distressed. And there's a man speaking to her in a foreign accent, wishing to entrap her. This is precisely the kind of thing which has happened as a result of, as I say, decades of mismanagement of this country. And we're going to get more extremism, more division in society, more breakdown in the criminal justice system, the more that this society is allowed to spin out of control, which is why it's critical. It's critical that people like Farage, myself, and others call things out precisely for what they are, find the root causes of those problems, and then unashamedly propose the solutions, which in the case of mass illegal migration is the mass deportation of those who are here illegally, no matter how long it takes, no matter how costly the exercise, and no matter how difficult. It has to be done. There's no point hiding behind figures, no point giving exclusions for women and children, or no point dilly-dallying, flip-flopping, trying to curry favor here and there. If you care about this country and you're on the political landscape and you want to protect young girls like the one we just saw, we, the men of this country, have to be brave, and we need to speak bravely. That's the end of it.
Couldn't have put it better myself, Ben Habib. Congratulations on the endorsement from Tommy Robinson. Some good news, as you say. Do keep us posted, and when you hit that 30,000, please do come back. But we will speak very soon.
Thank you.
Ben Habib, leader of Advance UK. And breaking right now, Tommy Robinson was right. The mainstream media lied. In the past few minutes, he has been cleared by the Crown Prosecution Service, even though the British Transport Police, desperate to get a conviction, probably to try and stop the Uniting Kingdom rally next month, have failed in their attempt over this so-called tube station attack, which Tommy Robinson always insisted was a case of self-defense versus someone, a so-called victim, according to the MSM, who actually was the aggressor, actually was drunk, and actually didn't want to press any charges against Tommy. Well, we've just had his reaction. Tommy has posted on X, breaking news, St. Pancras, no case to answer after police investigated. It has been proven I was the victim and I was within the law to defend myself. Why was I arrested at all? You had the footage. You knew I was the victim. Metropolitan Police. And of course, this is what happens, isn't it? This is what happens in these cases. The mainstream media piles on. We saw headline after headline. LBC, GB News, The Sun. And yet now that he has been cleared, there will be absolutely no explanation as to how they got this so wrong. Tommy has made this video. Watch.
I want you all to remember the headlines. Remember The Guardian went hunting me down. You were told I was on the run. Also remember that after this incident at St Pancras train station, the police had all the evidence, as in the CCTV. Yet they still turned up like the military as I stepped off my EasyJet flight at Luton Airport to arrest me. The Daily Mail run the headlines as though I'd been arrested. They made it look like a murder scene. Well, guess what's happened today? No further action. Why is there no further action? Why was I arrested? Why, when the CCTV footage shows I was the victim, I'm not going to apologise for defending myself. You come up to me, you threaten me, you try to assault me, you'll end up asleep on the floor. Yeah, I'm not going to apologise for that. Okay. Why was it portrayed to the public I was on the run? Why were the Guardian hunting me down? And why, with all the evidence that the police were in possession of, was I even arrested? When it clearly shows I was the victim. The footage shows I was the victim. Why was I under arrest? Why were the media campaign against me? Why were the lies put out to the public? And another question, why were the witness statements that were read out in the media, read the witness statements in the press, they were bullshit. They're lies. Said I was the aggressor. Unfortunately, the CCTV says the opposite, you lying fuckers. So I should be happy. Why am I happy? I was put through hell. I was targeted. I was attacked. I defended myself. And then the media spun it. The police spun it because I never should have been under arrest because they had all the evidence. But today I've been no further action, no case to answer. I don't have to answer bail. I'm no longer on bail. The witnesses lied. I have all the evidence you lied. Yeah? So anyway, breaking news, Tommy Robinson defended himself. Roll on September 13th, a day for freedom. Correct every one of their lies. Take this video. Make sure any of those smear merchants and the journalists. There was a journalist that went and knocking on innocent people's doors in Tenerife, looking for me like I was on the run. When all I'd done was defend myself against a hostile, violent attack. It's not, and some people would only be happy if I was the one face down on the floor. I'm not going to apologise. I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. Come up to me, attack me, violently attack me. I'll put you to sleep. Good night.
And Tommy Robinson making it very, very clear he ain't taking this nonsense anymore. To respond, let me bring in today's superstar panel. And it is a pleasure to have the return of Father Calvin Robinson and Donna Rachel Edmunds. Father Calvin, this is a complete disgrace, though, because, look, I've just been sent the BBC website, for example. Do you remember how huge they went on this story when they thought there was a chance of imprisoning Tommy Robinson? Nothing on the fact that he has been cleared. I feel like they are being exposed, and actually there are growing calls for Tommy Robinson to even consider a legal case against the British Transport Police. He was the victim here, not the aggressor, Father Calvin. But you would never believe that. And actually, you would never know that if it weren't for citizen journalism and the independent media.
It's something I've always hated about the legacy media, in that when they do print or publish a retraction, it's always like this tiny little small print on page 52, whereas they've had headlines for weeks and weeks about something that turns out not to be true. I believe that by law, they should publish with the same amount of vigor the retraction or the correction that they printed with the original story. So if they spend 3 headlines talking about how they're going to go and get Tommy and arrest him and send him to prison, when he's cleared, they should print 3 headlines saying Tommy Robinson cleared of all charges, not being held on bail, not being charged, etc. Because it's only fair, it's only right. Because otherwise, they're painting a picture. They're pushing with their own bias a narrative that fits whatever they want. And so people will see all these headlines. They won't see the tiny corrections or retractions or cease and desist messages on page 52. It's a great shame, but this is the legacy media all over, isn't it? And you've talked about it in the opening of the show too, the fact that they haven't talked about this really, really important story that everyone else around the world is talking about. It's everywhere. I'm in Florida right now, for goodness sake, and people are talking about that young 14-year-old and 12-year-old girl, especially the one that was holding the sword and or the knife and the axe, because it's a sign of Scottish freedom, of British independence from the state, from the tyranny of the mass migration, the invading forces, the barbarians who have walked through the gates, aided by the state. It's a sign of people fighting back. But where is it in the legacy media? Where are they covering it? Just like with the Tommy Robinson story, they cover what they want to cover, not what people need to know.
100%. I mean, as Juliet Johnson says in our live chat right now, Donna, BBC, Sky and GB News are pretty quiet about the story now. Tommy's been exonerated. But my God, they were using those images which looked like a murder scene, you know, with the police investigating. And this is the problem. How can you ever trust anything in the mainstream media, Donna? I feel what happened in this case was very, very similar to the Manchester airport case, where we got a tiny little piece of footage, which the mainstream media ran with to push their agenda, only for it to completely collapse.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, you've been a journalist for many years. I was a journalist before I got into what I'm doing now. You and I both know that most of what the media report is not really what's actually happening out there. You know, they're very clever, the way they spin their narratives, the way they pick and choose what story they want to cover. As Calvin says, they'll go big headlines on whatever suits them, but anything that doesn't is, you know, if it has to be published at all, it's hidden away, you know, at the end of the newspaper. And the other thing in all of this, I don't know if you caught in what Tommy was saying there, but he sounded like he was saying that the police and the Daily Mail were working together, that he was, you know, coming off the plane from his holiday, the police were waiting, and so were the Daily Mail. Now, we've seen that kind of thing.
It was the Sun newspaper.
Okay, fair enough,
and had the Sun been tipped off, because look at this astonishing picture that they published exclusively. Oh, it just so happened the Sun was there. And look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 police officers, Donna. 2 vans. You only saw 1 van in shot there, but there were 2 paddy wagons. Now, remember, by that point, the British Transport Police would have seen the CCTV footage showing that Tommy wasn't the aggressor. So this is the problem. I feel so often they are trying to create a narrative that suits their agenda rather than actually just reporting what really happened.
Absolutely, and that is what they do. You know, they find the story that they want to run. They then go to people who they know are going to say what they want, and if you don't say what they want, they just won't publish it. So, you know, they very much craft a narrative, and I'm really glad that the British public are starting to wake up to that, because it's been going on for decades now. But people assume that if you see it on the BBC, it must be true because they're trustworthy, right? And now we're seeing that that's just not true. That they're not news reporting, they are narrative reporting, and they just spin whatever they want and get away with it, or they have up until now, but I think they're starting not to anymore.
Well, as Tommy has just said on X, remember the witness statements say, I screamed, do you want to try me? You can clearly hear he shouted that. It was at this point that the man attempted to violently attack me. Now, Father Calvin, I hadn't gone public with this, of course, because it was an ongoing criminal investigation. But when I saw Tommy and quizzed him on this privately, because, of course, lots of people had been saying, you know, why did you not start taking footage? Well, actually, he did, Father Calvin. So as well as the CCTV, Tommy Robinson had his own footage, which he had taken part way through the altercation to back up what he was saying.
This is the only way, isn't it? We have to kind of cover ourselves at this point and pull out our cameras, record what we can, just with the case. In fact, I'm not even sure who was recording in the case of the girls, because it looks like the aggressor was actually recording and tried to leak it out to benefit himself. But we've got to record these instances because we can't trust the police. The fact that they had the CCTV and only publicly made available the part that made Tommy Robinson look bad just goes to show how corrupt and biased, how prejudiced they are. Either release the whole thing so we can see the whole incident and make our minds up for ourselves, or don't release any of it at all because it's an ongoing case. But don't release a snippet of the man lying on the floor and Tommy wandering around back and forth and make people try to think, oh, Tommy's clearly attacked this guy. It's not even benevolent. It's malicious. It's just wicked what they're doing. And for the police to be encouraged, media just goes to show the whole establishment is against the working class people.
100%.
September
they
the 13th
want Tommy locked up.
Coming up.
They want
September the 13th
Tommy locked up.
And they don't want it to happen.
100%. I mean, Tommy, he's not holding back on this one, Donna. He's just said, now I can say it, fuck around and find out. But I guess isn't one of the risks here that actually things are going to be becoming more lawless. People are going to have to start defending themselves. And there is this breakdown in trust of our authorities. And I think that is making things particularly febrile.
Yeah, I really do feel like we've moved from a high trust society just this last year into, we've sort of fallen off a cliff into low trust society territory. You know, not only through things like the amount of strangers on our streets who we just don't know why they're here or what they want, and some of them are clearly quite aggressive, but actually in our institutions as well. And, you know, as I say, the media have their own narrative. We now know that they're not telling the truth, they're just telling what they want. The police seem to have their own kind of version of reality in which, you know, they want to paint certain people to be the bad guys and then hold up other people to be the good guys. Now that's not policing, that's politics really, I suppose, but you know, it's certainly not what we thought we were getting when we when we look at our policemen, or you know, go to the police office to report a crime. We want to have somebody at the other side of the desk who we think is going to take us seriously and fairly, and the fairness just seems to have completely gone from the system, and especially the last year.
Breaking right now, civil war at ITV Daytime over Reform UK's mass deportation plan. This comes as Rylan Clark has been forced to defend himself for what some insiders at ITV are furious about. 2 minutes on woke television where he actually spoke the truth about mass immigration. But many of his co-stars, including the loose women, are not happy. I'm going to take you through this story in full with the inside details and Rylan's response. But first, I think it's really important that we actually hear what he said on This Morning Today, responding to Nigel Farage's announcement that Reform UK has pledged to mass deport 500,000 illegals in their first term if they get to number 10 Downing Street. Watch this.
Major worry. I've got to be honest, that is a major worry. Now, taking politics out of this, let's just look at the country, Tim. Yeah. This country is built on immigration, legal immigration. You know, a lot of the nurses, the doctors that have saved my mum's life have come over here from other countries, are living a great life, they're paying into this tax system, they're helping this country thrive. I find it absolutely insane that all these people, one, are risking their lives coming across the channel like that they are, but two, when they get here, it does seem, and I think this is why a lot of Labour voters as well are now sitting there going, there's something wrong here. It seems, welcome, come on in. This is the narrative we're being fed. Here's the hotel. Here's the phones, here's the iPad, here's the NHS in reception of your hotel, here's 3 meals a day, here's a games room in the hotel, have a lovely time and welcome. And then there's people that have lived here all their lives that are struggling, they're homeless, let's not even discuss our homeless, that people living on the streets, veteran, all of this. Now this isn't me getting on my soapbox, because let me be honest, everyone's going to have an opinion about this and you're going to upset someone some which way. I believe that something major needs to be done about this. The money that it's costing us, the amount of people that are in this country that we have no idea who they are, what they've done, what they're capable of, and clearly we see a lot of it in the press at the moment, what some are doing, it's not all, what some are doing to people in this country. How can, if I turn up at Heathrow Airport as a British citizen and I've left my passport in Spain, I've got to stand at that airport and won't be let in and got to get this, but if I arrive on a boat in Calais, I get taken to a 4-star hotel.
Listen, I think you sum up people's emotions.
Amen to that. Well done, Rylan Clark, for speaking a truth that, hilariously, most of the public believe, but can very much get you cancelled within the halls of woke ITV. So much so that Rylan has had to release a statement clarifying his position because of the so-called backlash. He has written, you can be pro-immigration and against illegal routes. You can support trans people and have the utmost respect for women. You can be heterosexual and still support gay rights. The list continues. Stop with this putting everyone in a box exercise and maybe have conversations instead of shouting on Twitter. To which Thomas Skinner replied, I'm so proud of you, mate. But you can imagine the race baiters are out in force. Narinder Kaur responding, do better, Rylan. Apologise and stop cosplaying fascist and racist narratives, putting targets on brown and black communities. Oh, how dare you? Listen to what she had to say.
Nigel Farage up these days. Seriously, Rylan, I've met you before, liked you. But your little outburst on this morning was disgusting, despicable. You can do better. And don't you dare wrap it up as, oh, well, it's all unfair. Because if you wanted to talk about unfairness, you could have talked about billionaires not paying their taxes. You could have talked about corrupt politicians. You could have talked about a multitude of sins of the Tory government of the past 14 years. But no, you decided to wake up and punch down on vulnerable people who are drowning in the sea, trying to get desperate, trying to get to this country, and you wrapped it up as some kind of luxury holiday they're on. It's disgusting. Who do you think you are, seriously? And then you started to kind of backtracked and said, well, actually, we like legal migrants. They looked after my mum so well. My parents were legal migrants. I know plenty of legal migrants, and they don't appreciate that you thought that that's okay, because we're at targets right now. Black and brown communities right now, we're targets. There's a target on our back. 2 Sikh men have been attacked. A restaurant in a suspected racial aggravated attack. And all you can talk about is, well, we don't mind them. Shut up.
Well, it all then kicked off within ITV Daytime. Because this morning leads immediately into a show that you probably have heard of called Loose Women. It's just about to pretty much be axed. But it's full of a whole load of women who tend to be on the left these days. And immediately after what happened on this morning, the Loose Women decided to hit back via their hard left champion, Nadia Sawalha, who, even though she didn't mention Rylan by name, was clearly enraged by what she had just seen happening. We're going to get reaction from our superstar panel, Father Calvin Robinson and Donna Rachel Edmunds, in just one moment. But first, watch what happened.
Well, the thing is, I am actually really worried. I know a lot of people just dismiss Nigel Farage and his sometimes rantings.
Yeah.
But when I look at America now and I look at the horror story that's unfolding there, and I know a lot of people here agree with what's going on, people being dragged out of their homes, illegal immigrants that maybe have been working there 20, 25 years, they've built up a life and a home and they pay taxes and all of that. I actually, for me, it feels like Nigel Farage, like Trump is Nigel Farage's sort of like man crush kind of thing.
Well, they are very close.
They're very close. And it feels like he's following his playbook. And, you know, it's the oldest trick in the book, isn't it, for a politician to create hate about a group of people to distract from all that they're not doing. And it feels to me like he loves to throw that red meat out. And it's like we should be, like you say, Kate, we should be looking at what really, yes, it's a problem, you know, we can't have everybody here, but we have to come up with a solution for that, and successive governments haven't.
Well, we sort of have to find a middle ground, don't we, rather than the pendulum going all the way over here.
And to blame our lack of a good education system, lack of good mental health services, lack of good, the NHS struggling to blame it all on migrants is very dangerous. And I think when you look at America and you look at how the Democrats kind of just passed him off as a joke all the time, Trump, and here we are. He's breaking down the Constitution. He's doing whatever he wants. He's rounding people up. Look at how he sent people off to El Salvador. I just think we have to be really careful.
Yeah, and we are a divided country. I mean, if you look at the polls...
He
got voted in by people who felt they were not listened to. Their concerns were not being listened to.
In the way that Nigel Farage is.
Oh, I think I want to scream. Father Calvin, I mean, isn't it astonishing, right, that Ryland Clark says something I think completely non-controversial that probably 90% of the country agree with. He didn't do so in party political terms. And look at what's happened. Complete meltdown. His own colleagues clearly responding to him. It's nuts.
What Ryland Clark said was entirely moderate. In fact, he was wrong. Britain is not built on immigration. Britain was never built on immigration. Britain was built on Britons. England was built by the English. We haven't had mass migration in the UK until the late 1990s. We only had migration in the UK from the 1950s, really and truly. And so these are lies that have been propagated through the education system for such a long time now that people start to believe it. But where he was right in that, he was saying we cannot support illegal immigration coming into the country and reaping the benefits where Britons are struggling, starving, and famished, basically. His point was accurate. But the lady on Loose Women, I don't know what her name is. I can't.
Nadia Sawalha. She's on the hard left.
Vapid Jezebel spirits. But what she was saying was pretty similar to him. She was pretty much saying, we can't have everyone here. Of course we can't. We need to find a solution. Well, then let's have the conversation. Because what she points out is that there are many people that are disaffected, many people who do not feel listened to by the establishment. And yes, the pendulum will swing back far the other way as a result of people like her and that panel who dismiss ordinary working class Britons with ordinary problems and concerns. The fact that they continue to sneer at people and paint everything as far right is why there's such a diverse split in the people of this country, of our country. And so they don't see that they are the problem. And they point at people like Farage, who he's not far right. He's not. I wish he was more like Trump. He's nothing like Trump. But we do need someone like Trump in Britain, because what Trump's doing out here in America is fantastic. Anyone that's here illegally, anyone that's breaking the law, you're gone, as it should be. If you enter a country illegally, you break the law to get there and you reap the benefits that people who are legal citizens do not have access to, you should be deported. Of course you should. If you break a law, you should be punished. That's the basis of the law. If we do away with the law, we're not a civilized people. Just as if we do away with our borders, we are not a nation. These are simple things, and these simple women don't seem to grasp it. And it's so annoying because they are on mainstream media propagating their nonsense and pushing the idea that liberals are somehow morally superior, and that everyone who disagrees with them is somehow a fascist. And so the pendulum will indeed swing back hard, but it will be their fault, not ours.
Indeed. And Donna Rachel Edmunds, I think it is so shocking that the way the Liberal elite thinks means that Ryland Clark is now like a hunted man. He's probably terrified that he's going to be sacked, terrified that he's going to lose endorsement deals, terrified that he's going to lose work for actually expressing something that, as Father Calvin suggested, was actually really moderate.
Yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for him. Of course I do. And I think he's probably having a really hard time right now, just seeing the storm that's blown around him. But I have to say, I mean, to me, it's indicative of how tenuous the left's grasp is on the power that they've been wielding in our country for the last couple of decades, let's say. I mean, look at the absolute meltdown they've had over people hanging our national flag outside, you know. Like, if they can't even cope with a flag in its own country, then no wonder they're you know, spitting feathers about people saying, well, you know, maybe we should have realistic, sensible policies that actually serve the people of the country. I mean, you know, but as I say, I think they know that they're losing their grasp. They know that the people are not on their side, and they know that sooner or later, as Calvin says, they've pushed it too far, and they are going to reap what they sow. And I think that's what they're terrified of. They understand what they've done, and they are desperately trying to not let it happen.
Indeed. I mean, as Bev Turner, who used to be a regular on This Morning until she was cancelled from Woke ITV over the COVID madness, posted, "I call this the Trump tide. He splashes his feet in the water over there. We feel the ripples here. This moment," referring to what happened on This Morning, "is a tipping point. Who would have predicted that Ryland would have the courage to go first?" He sums it up deftly. You can feel the tension in that studio. But of course, the mainstream media continue their usual tricks. This was Victoria Derbyshire on BBC Newsnight last night, attempting to trip up Richard Tice of Reform UK.
Deputy leader Richard Tice, if they found themselves in power, his party deport every single person who is here in the UK illegally?
That's the ambition, because you can't enter a country illegally and expect to stay there forever. Now, the truth is that we don't know how many people are in the country. As a nation, we don't know where they are, so it won't be easy. It'll take time, but that is the ambition, and we will work to find those people who are illegally, who are working illegally, and detain and deport them.
So it's interesting that you use the word ambition, because that makes it sound like you don't necessarily think this plan is going to work. There are...
No, we think it'll work. It's just, if you've got to give or take 1 million people here illegally, we might get to 990,000, but we might miss the last few. That's the point.
Understood. ICE-type raids, is that the kind of thing you are thinking of in order to track illegal migrants down?
We will use whatever technologies and whatever methods are required in order to track people down, and that's including across using data across all the various government departments, much of which isn't done at the moment, and compelling departments, including the NHS, to share that data so that we can identify who is in the country legally and who is here illegally.
But Father Calvin, regardless of how the mainstream media might try to swing it, your view is that the Reform UK mass deportation plan goes nowhere near far enough. You have posted on X 600,000 in 5 years. There are over 1.3 million Pakistani Muslims in the UK. Half of those were born in Pakistan, making up 5% of the general population. They account for 64% of child sexual abuse. Deportations need to be far higher from day one. So I guess maybe you would agree that this is a start in terms of the direction of travel, but actually it isn't really a mass deportation policy, because there's probably over 2 million here illegally.
Yeah, it's weird to me how they always play softball in the Reform Party. I'm not sure why, because I don't know what vote base they're after. But to say we want to deport 600,000 people in 5 years is astonishing to me, because there are over 600,000 people, roughly 780,000 people who were born in Pakistan who are in our country right now. Every single one of those needs to be deported. For a start, that's regardless of the Albanians, the Afghanistans, all of the people who have entered our country, both legally and illegally, that have no place in our country. And so to say 600k over 5 years, what's the point? Why bother? Like the number of people coming in mass outnumbers that anyway. We're up over 1 million per year net migration. So do they really want to solve the problem, or do they just want to seem like they are willing to solve the problem to those of us who want it solved so they can go after whatever their ambitions really are, which I don't know. Again, I don't know what reforms stand for. I don't know what they want to achieve other than getting into power. What do they want?
Yeah, and that is such an important question. And that's why Elon Musk's intervention is, to me, so significant. I mean, this is a guy who seems to understand, I believe, more about what's happening in the United Kingdom and the threat to free speech than so many mainstream politicians. I mean, look at finally the fact that someone so significant has spoken publicly about the Lucy Connolly case. He wrote quite clearly on X, this madness needs to end. And it is only X, the only big tech company that is challenging the UK government's very serious crackdown on free speech. And at the moment, I think Reform UK might be making some of the right noises, but they need to move a lot harder, a lot faster. Developing today, Donald Trump has declared victory over Meghan Markle after Prince Harry's duplicitous wife was given the opportunity to speak negatively about the US president in public for the first time in 10 years and refused. This was in a bombshell new interview with Bloomberg TV, which we're going to be analysing with my superstar panel, Donna Rachel Edmunds and Father Calvin Robinson. But here's the moment when she bottled it. And remember, Meghan knows that if she were to go on the attack against Donald Trump, that Harry's visa could potentially still be withdrawn if the Heritage Foundation are able to prove that he lied about his drug use before entering the country. Watch.
You had some choice words for President Trump.
I think it was in 2012, like the Republican Party lost the female vote by 12 points. That's a huge number. And with as misogynistic as Trump is and so vocal about it, that's a huge chunk of it. You're not.
Are there things you're dying to say or do right now that you feel like you can't?
No, I just make a choice of what matters to me and what's important to me. And that was a different time in 2016, certainly. But no, I mean, what was that, the Larry Wilmore show?
Yes.
I was so excited to have that. I was so excited to be able to go on that show at the time. Yeah, no, I think. Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.
Thank you. I've got a classic and a jalapeno.
I'm a classic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. There we go.
Thank you. Can I grab some napkins from you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll wait for the napkins.
Just to be
I'll
on
let
the safe
I'll let
side.
you finish your answer.
Of course, it was a different time. I was excited to be on the show, and I think if there's anything that I wanted to say or that felt necessary to say, then I would say it. But that's not where I'm at right now. I don't think I haven't said anything since 2016. That was well before I met my husband, too.
I mean, the whole thing, doesn't it just make your skin crawl? She's so fake. But Father Calvin Robinson, I mean, look, this is, of course, her opinions are still the same. But Donald Trump is now so powerful in the US. Meghan Markle, who's all about speaking her truth, has been politically gagged. And to be honest, I'm here for it. I don't want her spreading bile against Trump and causing issues for the royal family. So I think it's good that she feels like she can't speak out.
I think that's the most honest I've ever seen her. She's smarter than I gave her credit for. She clearly says that I make a choice of what's important to me. And I think that she made the right choice. Her family is more important to her than bad-mouthing the president. She clearly harbors ill will towards him, but doesn't want to say it out loud because she could jeopardize her husband's status in the country. That's very sensible, very clever. And again, I've never seen her acting that way before.
Donna Rachel Edmunds, what did you make of Meghan's back down over Trump? Because, of course, what her base were hoping that she would do was continue on the same path as 2016, and we got nothing of the sort.
Yeah, I think she's a clever girl. I think she knows
She's
that
crafty.
she's crafty. She didn't get to where she is, by accident. And she's playing a clever game. She knows that Trump is in the ascendant. The Democrats are losing votes, they're losing members, their ship is sinking rapidly. So she's made a very calculated decision to as Calvin says, do what suits her, stick with her family, make sure that her life is under control, as it were, and not rock that boat any further, because it's definitely going down. So
the big problem that I have, though, is that even though she feels like she can't attack Trump for her own selfish reasons, the ludicrous attacks on the British royal family do continue. And these are just now flat out lies. Absolute flat out lies. Remember, I covered Meghan's time in the royal family closer than anyone. I know what was going on. And this claim that she continues to push, that she was forced to wear particular things, the new claim is that she was forced to wear nude pantyhose while her free speech was being controlled by courtiers, is simply not true. Those courtiers were terrified of Meghan Markle. They knew what she was planning, and they knew that they couldn't impose limits on her, and they did not. But here's what she said.
Is there an inherent tension in trying to be relatable while also being a duchess?
No, I don't find, I'm just being myself. So I think probably it was different several years ago, where I couldn't be as vocal and I had to wear nude pantyhose all the time. Let's be honest, that was not very myself. I hadn't seen pantyhose since movies in the 80s when they came in the little egg. That felt a little bit inauthentic, but that's a silly example. But it is an example of when you're able to dress the way you want to dress and you're able to say the things that are true and you're able to show up in the space really organically and authentically. That's being comfortable in your own skin. And that's, of course, had different chapters in my life. But right now, no, I don't feel that I need to prove anything.
Well, of course, there is nothing authentic about Meghan Markle, but what also just continues to annoy me is that she has created a complete fantasy, a complete delusion about her time within the British royal family. As Tom Sykes, the European editor at large of the Daily Beast and writer of The Royalist on Substack, said on this, am I alone in finding Meghan's habit of saying how awful the British royal family are deeply hypocritical when every ounce of her fame, wealth and celebrity springs from her association with them? And he went on to say, I can't be alone in finding Meghan's habit of painting the British royal family as an oppressive straitjacket, deeply hypocritical. Without her membership of the royal family, without the Duchess of Sussex stitched into her bio, there would be no Netflix deal, no glossy rosé launch, and certainly no Bloomberg chair. The very institution she dismisses as repressive is the foundation of her brand. The hosiery detail is a retread of her biggest selling product to date, grievance. In reality, Sussex is a peerage, not a family name, and this is in regards to her claim that it's now her last name. And while royals often use their dukedoms as legal names, it is far less common to do so. After explicitly renouncing the monarchy's authority and producing documentaries aimed at discrediting it, again she attacks the system, yet trades on its status. It would be incredibly refreshing if just once Meghan could simply acknowledge the obvious. She was not well known before she married Prince Harry, and that marriage made her world famous. She could also do herself a favour and clarify afresh that Queen Elizabeth, whatever Meghan's personal disagreements with the institution she ran, embodied duty and service in a way that commanded global respect. But the hypocrisy is grating, decrying the monarchy while monetising its aura, selling relatability while deploying the cachet of Windsor. On a business show, such contradictions are supposed to be tested rather than burnished. The reviews for the new series of With Love Meghan, meanwhile, are coming in thick and fast, and they are not at all favourable, proof that the wider press is not playing along, a striking contrast with the curated comfort of the Bloomberg interview. The Guardian found season 2 so painfully contrived that it's genuinely fascinating. The Telegraph decided the hostess act must be exhausting and noted Harry is conspicuously absent. The Times went with smug, syrupy, and endlessly spoofable. So I want to show you now a couple of elements which Tom Sykes was referring to. Firstly, these were the little digs about how terrible her life was in London when she was asked about moving to Montecito.
Is it about Montecito? Like, what made this place feel like home more than other places?
Well, we moved here 5 years ago. Oh, we're just so happy because we can take our kids to school and have a really supported, sweet life, running around and doing the things that I think everyone maybe is part of your day-to-day,
Yeah.
but if you don't think about what life would be like without those moments,
Right.
it's easy to take them for granted. So I love it. We have such a beautiful, embracing community. Yeah, and been able to really create and dream.
And of course, all of the implication there is we didn't have that in London, which again is total bullshit, because let me tell you, your children are going to be paparazzi'd constantly in California, Meghan Markle. It simply would not have happened in the United Kingdom. Here's what Tom Sykes was referring to, though, in terms of her bizarre lies. She can't even tell the truth about her damn name. Watch.
That's a burning question. What have you learned about yourself since becoming Sussex?
Well, interesting. What I learned about myself is no matter what my name is or what people call me, I'm still the same person. So that didn't change who I am. And maybe that's probably the biggest distinguishing factor.
Give me a tutorial on royal naming conventions. So, like, are you Meghan Sussex? Are you Meghan Duchess of Sussex?
Mm-hmm.
Is Markle even on your passport anymore? Is it, we don't use that term anymore?
Well, when I got married, I changed my name.
Yeah.
But it's a complicated one for people to understand because a last name is not typical in that construct.
I think we expect a last name, but is that a last name or is that actually
It's not, but
a last
it's used roughly, or loosely rather. It sounds so silly to say, and I get it because I'm American, and then I went there and I started to understand, and you come back, and as an American you go, I'm so confused.
Yeah.
It's a dukedom.
A dukedom, that's a new word for me.
It's a dukedom.
Okay.
So, but that's the truth of it. But at the end of the day, you know, yes, so my legal name is Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. But Sussex, for us, works as our family name, and it's the name that we share with our children. And but yes, since we've been married, that's what I've been called.
I mean, Father Calvin Robinson, you actually have to start thinking at some point there's something very seriously wrong with this woman who's created such a fantasy world. She can't even be honest about the fact that something she claims to be her last name is not her last name. It's just bonkers.
I think it probably is. I think what they've actually done is they've branded it. And so their surname should be Windsor, of course, and their title is Duke and Duchess of Sussex. But I think what they've done when they've moved to America is probably branded the Sussex brand or tried to brand the Sussex brand. You can do that in England, of course, it would be illegal, but in America it's a different world. And so I think what they've done is they've taken Sussex and used that as their surname. They probably even changed their surnames by default. They probably are Harry and Meghan Sussex now, legally, at least in America. But that's not convention in English peerage. It's not convention in our tradition. But I don't think she really cares about tradition. It's about how she can use our tradition for her image, for her branding, for her persona in order to make more money and to be more famous.
Yeah, I mean, Donna, certainly it is all about the money. But to me, there is something so grating about someone who quite clearly she's almost taking the piss again. Like, oh, it's a dukedom. But like, you're the one who is clinging to the royal family. The British public and actually the royal family itself, they don't want you to take the titles. They don't want you to have anything to do with it. You are the person who, on your ridiculous cooking show, ends the credits saying executive producer, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. Like, you're the one who cares about this. None of us want you to have these titles.
Yeah, I think actually there's a thread that runs through all of the stories we're talking about today, and that's truth versus falsity, versus lies, essentially. So we've seen already, with the media narrative, they'll just spin any lie they want. Meghan is spinning any story she wants because she wants to create construct that suits her. She wants her cozy life to continue in the way that she wants it. And this is what we're seeing across the left, that they've got these stories that they tell themselves and they will repeat them over and over and over and over even though the rest of us can see that they're absolute nonsense, because they feel that if they do that enough, that they can somehow hang on to the world that they created for themselves. But I have news for them. You know, it's falling away. It's going. We don't believe you anymore, and we can see that you're all lying. And she, like the rest of them, just doesn't know what to do about it. So
100%.
she, you know,
but
makes her charcuterie plates, you know, as though that's going to save her from the
as if we're not going to
onslaught.
pick her up on this rubbish. Because, I mean, just look at, like, Archie's birth certificate, for example. I mean, to me, it's absolutely clear. His last name is Mountbatten Windsor. Look, you can see there. Harry is on the birth certificate as His Royal Highness Henry Charles Albert David Duke of Sussex. And it's Rachel Meghan, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. But the last name is Mountbatten Windsor. The funny thing about all of this, though, is that Meghan says that actually any of us who point out these flaws, right, and the way that her argument just completely collapses, we are responsible for what she describes as clickbait. No, it's not reporting. It's not accurate reporting. Doesn't even matter about the fact that publications like Vanity Fair and The Hollywood Reporter and the Newsweek publications are the ones that have been accusing her of bullying most recently. It's all down to clickbait. And I think this is so disturbing because it shows that she has created almost like an alternate universe that she lives in now. Watch this.
10.
Yeah.
Globally. And yet there were mixed reviews.
I watched every episode of the Meghan Markle Netflix show, so you don't have to.
Today my guest is a... It's hard to sort of show your whole self.
I waffle with some of my choices before I make them. I'm generally very decisive, but social media is a great barometer for this for me, because putting out a video of myself 9 months pregnant was a really big choice, but I also wanted people to see themselves in my story and our story, and to be able to show that with all the noise that might happen in the world on a day-to-day basis, real life is still happening behind the scenes. Really real life.
But you put that out there and some people, like, they tear it apart, you know?
I'm sure they did, I don't know. But I also protect myself from seeing that.
It's been interesting preparing for this interview because every day you search for your name and there's like 1,000 different news stories about 1,000 different things.
Yes.
And so...
But I guess the distinction there is those people don't know me and they're not talking about me. And that's a really hard place to come to terms with. Yeah. But that's the truth. So if you can really compartmentalize it and go, oh, right, there is a very, very powerful machine, and it's all about generating income. Mm-hmm. Those stories aren't just appearing because it's fun. Clickbait has a huge financial implication. And so if I'm part of an SEO and that gets them more clickbait, then yes, they're incentivized to churn out as many stories, false or damaging or whatnot, to feed the beast, because that's paying them. And I think a lot of people forget the economic element of it. And I think from my standpoint, that's why I don't look at it. It would be very hard to see anything about yourself that isn't true. But equally, it's not me that they're talking about. It's some caricature they've had to create to get clicks. And I'm very clear on the difference between the two.
So I mean, Father Government, you just can't argue with someone like that. It's not even worth it, is it? Because it's almost like, no matter what's said, no matter where it comes from, no matter what the source is, no matter who publishes it, even if it's the liberal press, even if it's the New York Times, Vanity Fair, Hollywood Reporter, she's just always going to live in this world where she tells her dwindling band of followers on and on. It's just clickbait. It's just clickbait.
It's quite convenient, isn't it, to dismiss it in that way? It's irrelevant. But to some degree, she's right in that it's not her that we know, it's a caricature that we know, because that's what she puts out there. She's so manipulative and she's so careful at what she puts forward that we'll probably never know the real Meghan Markle behind closed doors.
I mean, the real Meghan Markle, Donna, is nothing like the Meghan Markle who tries to present herself as an Earth Mother on With Love Meghan. And we know that now because there has been a decade of reporting about her behavior, about bullying on both sides of the Atlantic. So I just think it's so easy for her, isn't it, to sort of say, well, I don't read any of it, but it's all untrue anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this is the hypocrisy with her, really, isn't it? Is that she's right that there is, a whole industry that's, built around clickbait and the economics of that. But she's also one of the main beneficiaries. I mean, that's how she keeps her profile so high, is by, I don't know if she leaks stories, but certainly I'm sure she doesn't mind that she's being written about daily, because it keeps her stock high ultimately. So it's a little bit two-faced to sort of on the one hand go, oh, I don't take any notice. I'm just over here, doing my baking bread or whatever she does. And on the other hand, sort of pretending that she's not like actively part of that whole system. It's just nonsense. And we all know it.
Well, look, thank you for sitting through that nonsense with me. I know it was painful for Donna Rachel Edmunds and Father Calvin Robinson, but I've got to call her out. I've got to call her out when she's been putting that nonsense out into the world. Fabulous superstar panel. Thank you both so much. Thank you. By the way, we're going to reveal Greatest Britain Union Jackass in just one moment, but thank you so much for all of your super chats today. Stevie Leeds says, at last, justice for Tommy Robinson. Those attacking him need to stop it immediately. It's shameful. He was accosted from the plane. Join Advance UK. Private Jose, on the viral video of the girls from Dundee, says, well done to the Scottish girls for self-defence. Glad they are safe. Disgusting government deport these pedos. But on the whole issue of, reform versus Advance UK, COD Ad 1CT says, I won't ever split the vote and vote for Advance UK. Abandoning Farage just when we can get some power for some upstarts living off the coattails of Farage would be a huge mistake. Vote reform. So there's clearly still division on this. Although Richard B, speaking directly to Reform UK, said, you lead in the polls because you have been the only option, but you chose to turn against your supporters, so have brought the situation on yourselves. Yarley says, Tommy Robinson supports Advance UK, so my whole family joined Advance UK too. Farage's a cunning fox, but we need lions in this fight against the corruption and rot that we're drowning in. United we can. And from Bill, I like this, Bill. Well done, Tommy. Try speaking more like Matt Goodwin, and you might get a column in the Telegraph. And it is so true. There is so much classism in this debate, which very often isn't discussed. Okay, time to reveal today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. A reminder of your nominees, the aforementioned Meghan Markle, put forward by Sarah Booth. And that's because her second series of With Love Meghan has been mauled by the critics as narcissistic, needy, staged, fake, dull, a gormless lifestyle full of the Montecito, Marie Antoinette, and a series in search of meaning fronted by a woman in need of some cash. Whoops. Jess Phillips, nominated by Ginzi Doodah for the ongoing lack of action on an official rape gang inquiry. And Saeed Avazi, nominated by Exile Paddy 62 for declaring on LBC this week that placing English, Scottish, Welsh, Northern Ireland and Union flags made you a far-right knuckle dragger. Okay, the results are in. In third place, with 21% of the vote, Meghan Markle. The runner-up, with 29% of the vote, Saeed Avazi. And the winner, with 50% of the vote, today's worst Briton in the world, our Union Jackass, Jess Phillips. She'll go head-to-head to be named the worst Briton in the world this week with Narinder Kaur from Monday, Femi Olawale from Tuesday, and whoever is your Union Jackass tomorrow. Today's Greatest Britain is an honorary Greatest Britain, but nominated by Paula London, and it's Elon Musk. Even though he isn't British, she says, for caring more about British girls' safety than our current treacherous government does. Okay, coming up on the uncancelled after show on Substack, much more royal news with YouTube sensation P. Diner. You can join us at www.outspoken.live. So at this stage, we move off YouTube and Rumble. We move to Substack for the uncancelled after show. But I do look forward to being back with you here at 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, live tomorrow. Hit subscribe on YouTube and Rumble. Turn on the notification bell so that you're alerted to our new episodes. And most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for